leading creative women leaders along with Lean in Kolkata and EduPsych welcomes you all to this session on identifying and combating triggers. Here, we will learn how to identify the triggers so that we can become emotionally intelligent and control our thoughts instead of our thoughts controlling ourselves. So, about Lean in CWL, we are a global network of 1,000 plus women who come together from a diverse background to unleash their best version. We provide resources via webinars, blog posts, leadership, invoking creativity activities, personal development and inspiration. We also provide safe space to lots and lots of women to discuss and open up about their hesitations, their limitations, and work with them to foster a friendly and supportive environment. We are doing this event together with EduPsych, which is an initiative offering a psychotherapy platform focused on bringing together ethnography, therapy, holistic spirituality, technology, and an understanding of business design to revolutionize how humans relate to mental health. EduPsych's flagship innovation offers help and training to the mind for mental excellence, providing access to timely, effective, and affordable mental health support, which is better than antidepressants, and enables professional and personal growth for 1 million people. So, cheers to EduPsych. Now I'm very, very much honored and pleased to present you our host and the guest of the evening, Miss Ruchi Bakai. So, about Ruchi, she is an entrepreneur, founder of EduPsych, and an experienced psychologist having cumulative counseling, corporate training, and transformational coaching experience of over 5 years. She calls herself passionately curious, which I must say she is. She has also conducted over 1,000 sessions and over 18 plus trainings and workshops. Ruchi also shoulders the responsibility of being the founder and the leader of Lean in Kolkata, a network that offers mental health support and personal and professional growth opportunities. Apart from this, Ruchi is also a die-hard fan of traveling. Now today, Ruchi is leading with us to help us understand, identify, and combat the emotional triggers which will help us get control of our emotions. So thank you so much, Ruchi, for doing this with us. Thank you so much, and over to you, Ruchi.
Thank you so much, Shanu, for this amazing and warm welcome that you've given me. You are truly a very empowering woman, and I am so honored and I'm so humbled to be hosted by creative women leaders. I love leaning in with all you women over here. It seems like a full house, and a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who's joining from across the globe. I am Ruchi Bakai, and like Shanu correctly mentioned that yes, I am the founder and leader of Lean in Kolkata. I am a psychologist by profession and an entrepreneur by ambition. And I shoulder the responsibility of my venture EduPsych, which is a psychotherapy platform, like Shanu mentioned over here. So today, it's so amazing to see all of y'all come in to talk about something so very important, and that is the triggers. The emotional triggers that we often, experience. Sometimes we tend to talk about it, and mostly we tend to ignore it. So before I begin, I would like to, tell y'all something, or rather request something from all of y'all. I want the chat box to be bombed today. Make yourself, so available that you get to feel everything we talk about in this session, and just use the chat box to type in the way you're feeling. And today's word has got to be feel. That is the 4-letter word that I want you all to continue to type. Please do that. I'd like to, begin with the session, identifying and combating triggers. So one of the many wonders of the brain is how much it fully rationalizes our behavior. Something occurs, you react, and then your brain instantly concocts reasons for your reaction and seems to justify your behavior, even if the reason makes no sense. For example, like let's just get into some kind of these rationalizing that our brain does often. So for example, you get very angry because you can't find the report you were working on. You blame the company for giving you insufficient space, the cleaners for moving things around your desk, or your boss for giving you a stupid task or deadline. What just happened over here? If you've ever felt this, done this, or heard a friend do so, please type in the chat box, I did. Okay, okay. Whoa, so we all have been there, haven't we? Okay. Now here's something, I want to drop a truth bomb on you, and I want to tell you that you ignored the reasons you are tired and your patience is thin. Do you feel so? If you feel so, type feel. That yes, like basically if you feel so, that you ignored the reasons that you were tired and your patience was thin, then type feel. Yes. So yeah, we all have been pretty much in touch with our emotions then. Awesome. So now what really happened over here is you suppressed your unhappiness with your boss or your life. Now just imagine this one small incident in our day, or maybe just 20 minutes of that work time or an hour of that work time, and it triggered us in ways that it spiraled an emotion and it sent us to a space which really put us off the hook, right? Yes. Okay, so like I was mentioning, today we are going to talk about emotions, our triggers, and what really puts us off, and what really makes us giddy, what really makes us, fall in love, or any emotions. Let's just get in touch with our emotions, right? Because awareness is the birthplace of possibility, and everything you want to do, everything you want to be starts here. So I've already, taken a moment to introduce myself. Yes, I am a psychologist, founder of EduPsych, founder and leader at Lean in Kolkata. I am also by profession a speaker, a corporate wellness coach, and a transformational coach. So let's dig into our brains today, and let's see if we have any chance at trying to control our brains rather than it controlling us. So I'd like to actually, talk to you about something that really happened this evening, because I'm in India and it's late evening over here. So while I was preparing for this session, I was putting up my eyeliner because today I'd taken an off. It's a weekend for me, and I was putting up my eyeliner, a bit of lipstick. I thought that, okay, let me, put on Ruchi Regalia over here. And maybe, I'd be more presentable to you. Not that I needed any of it. It kind of triggered certain memories in the past, like of my own past. And I was like, I have to share this with all of you. And I quickly, put in these few slides that you're going to see. So I'd like to, begin, from where I started thinking about these things. And that is back in my childhood. I was a middle child, and I was fat, and a stout girl, and I felt that I was perennially neglected, and I did not fit into beauty standards that the society had put up. So this, of course, is a pain point in my life back in my childhood. And another trigger that comes in over here was the kind of the survival instinct that came in. And this survival instinct was definitely not positive, but entirely negative. And I became a people pleaser. So my low self-worth caused, and added to by people pleasing. And I would feel miserable about myself. And it only led me to depression. Yes, you heard that right. I am a psychologist by profession, and I am a depression survivor. I did fall into depression. There's a whole lot history to it. Probably, we can have a session altogether on it another day. But yes, that happened, and I had to battle depression like anybody's business. And that's when I realized that how much had I been ignoring myself, my self-care, my own emotions, the way I would think and feel. And I was like, this is it. This is it. I have to do something about this. And in the process, I became a psychologist. And that's why I proudly say that I am a depression survivor turned psychologist. I am a mental health warrior. So that really happened to me. And you know life keeps on happening, and there are triggers one after the other. So it so happened that I became a victim of patriarchy, which led to the relapse of depression. But again, our body, our mind is controlled in such a way that, or rather, it's engineered in such a way that we get to be in touch with our own selves. We get to be our own survivor, and that's how I listened to my inner calling and accepted that I'm a feminist. This newfound knowledge of self helped me to become the founder and leader of Lean in Kolkata, a network now which I'm so proud to, associate my name with. So, as a depression survivor turned psychologist, now an entrepreneur and founder of EduPsych, I'm honored with awards, media coverage, and so much more. I am and will be embracing life, because you know what? I'm a phoenix. Uh, and I say so because I have been pinned down so many times. I have hit rock bottom so many times, and I have been able to look up. And I always believe that if you can look up, you can get up, and if you can get up, you can win. How did all of this happen, and what has this got to do with today's session? Because everything over here has to do with our emotions, how we think, how we feel, and what are our triggers. That how can we become emotionally so intelligent that we can actually pull us out from those dark spaces and create the best versions of ourselves. So come on, let's just dive into a discussion where we start identifying those triggers and try to find in our own lives whether we've experienced something of that sort. So I'm just going to start this conversation by giving you a hypothetical situation. That, say for example, you're in a friendly conversation with another. Everything is going well until bam, your blood pressure starts to rise and you're starting to hyperventilate, and you have the instinct to urge, or that instinct to strangle the other person. You are that angry, you are that annoyed. So even though the other person made a just passing comment, you find yourself trying to prevent yourself from screaming down their throat and gouging out their eyes. So let me ask you a question. What just happened? Please use the chat box and tell me, what do you think happened over here? Awesome. So, yeah, we were in a hypothetical situation, and a real life situation stopped us from continuing the conversation here. No worries, we'll continue from where we left. So, I'd given you a situation already that you were in a friendly conversation, and suddenly your blood starts to boil. You feel like strangling the other, and there was a very simple comment that the other person had made, but you feel like screaming down their throat and gouging their eyes out. So I have a question over here. Tell me what just happened, because I can't see the chat box. You can unmute yourself and tell me what just happened in one word. Anyone can do that, or maybe use the chat box and someone can read it out for me, please. Let's converse here. Let's have some kind of an interaction here, please.
When a person comments on something that is untrue, so when they comment on something saying we and speaking up for other people and there's no known fact about it, when that person says we do not have this, when in actuality it's the person saying who doesn't have this. So case in point, we should be doing this, or when it should be in the I mode versus a we mode.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Christine, for sharing your opinions and thoughts. And I believe what's going to come next will definitely meet your answer, because what you said is yes, when someone says something and it doesn't match with us, it doesn't meet our thoughts and beliefs. So that's when we tend to feel that, okay, this is something that is like really not right and this is wrong. So yes, this is in these moments is what we call that we got triggered. So this was just one example of how we get triggered. And today in this session, I'm going to throw some examples at you, and I'm going to make you go on a trip, on a journey where you can start to think about those moments in your life when something someone said, or you were in a situation, and you started to go on like a thought, you went on a thought loop, and then the way you started to react. So that is what we are going to try and see in this session today. So I like to interact. I've tried to open up my chat box over here as well, so would love to interact with all of y'all. So if any of y'all are not with a pen and paper, make sure that y'all have one, because it may happen that there might be a thought and you don't want to miss that out. So please do write it. So we are going to do a bit of a realization first before we dive deep into those memories that we have where we felt triggered, right? Because in this situation, this hypothetical situation that we were in, and like Christine over here also correctly pointed out, that it did not, meet our own thoughts and beliefs and all of that. So that's it. But after the situation ends, and when we start to reflect on the situation later, we realize just how disproportionate our rage was and how uncomfortably strange a reaction felt. Take a moment to go back to a time when something of this sort had happened, where you had expressed your rage, your anger, or any emotion, any negative emotion which you tend not to do. And after you cooled down, you started to realize that, okay, this wasn't the way I should have dealt with the situation. Probably something else could have happened. If you have done that, if you've ever felt that, then please type in the chat box feel, because almost all of us have some kind of trigger or hot button that when pushed sets us off into a tirade of anger, hostility, fearful or resentful behavior. But of course, some of us are more skilled at dealing with these triggers than others. So tell me, do you find yourself to be a matchstick of some sorts? If so, feel free, don't hesitate to type in you do. Thank you. Thank you so much for your honesty over here. So here, as you see, like if you see that you did not feel anything, or you did not feel any of these triggers, then probably there is something else that is definitely not correct within us. So before we begin, like if you couldn't relate to what really happened, or if you felt that, no, I'm not a matchstick, or no, I don't really, feel this ways, then let's try and understand what are emotional triggers. So I have it, if you can see it in the screen, you get to read it, of course, that, emotional triggers. See, we humans are emotional people. We are those beings that we have so many emotions. in your poll, when you joined this session today, you got to see there were some questions. And in the last question, I'd asked you all whether you all know any emotion words or not. So if you have a emotional vocabulary of more than 10, please type 10. If you have an emotional vocabulary of less than 5, please type 5. And let's be really honest with yourself, see how many emotions you actually are aware of. Awesome. 10, 10, 5, 5, 10. Great. So now let's try and understand. Okay, there's 1, 10 to 20 as well. Cool. That is super amazing and super awesome. So today let's try and understand what are our emotional triggers, because before we try to combat them, before we try to identify our emotional triggers, it's very important that we understand what are emotional triggers, because and let's try and understand this. So people, words, opinions, situations, or environmental situations that provoke an intense and excessive emotional reaction within us. Anything can be an emotional trigger. Probably something that someone said and did not match our beliefs, our values, or maybe you are just driving a car and you're listening to a song, and that could be a trigger. You went on a trip where probably you were listening to the same song, you were with a person that you loved but you have lost now, so that could also set you that could also work as a trigger for you. So these are little things that actually make you feel. That is what in basic language we call it to be emotional triggers. So if you are someone who is filled with emotions, because I get to see in the chat box you guys typing 10 and 5 and 20, so those many emotional words, if you know, then please tell me, are you someone who feels? If you do, please type it in the chat box, I do feel. If we all are adults over here is what I'm assuming. So now let's take a moment, use that pen and paper that you have, and think about one particular emotion that you tend to feel a lot. It could be pain, it could be anger, or any other emotion, or maybe, if it could be feeling lonely, or it could be feeling unwanted, or feeling that uh, people aren't available for you. So if you do feel that, please write that down and try and remember a time in your life when you started experiencing this. When was the first time when you started experiencing this? Yes, so most of us over here did experience certain things, which of course we did not want to. And that was back in our childhood. Now as an adult, we are getting to realize it. So this is a kind of a bittersweet experience with our triggers, with our emotions. Back in childhood, of course, we had to go through these things, and we couldn't do anything about it. We couldn't control the situation. But you know what the good part is? Now we can, because now we can control the situation. So I read over here that pain and scared of loneliness since I was 18 or 18, 20, something of that sort. So yes, again, in our childhood, in days when we were teenagers, we did experience certain things that really put us off. So when we talk about, our emotions, or when we talk about these difficult feelings that we have to deal with, we often tend to ask our own selves that how did this happen? How did, my emotional triggers start to form? Because yes, back in childhood this happened, but I tell myself that I'm over it. It's over. It's been years. It's been 10 years. It's been 20 years. It's been such a long time, and I don't think about it even right now. Then why am I experiencing this? So again, I spiral into that kind of a confusion that what are these triggers and how do I manage these painful feelings and how do I face them? So let me actually give you an example today over here. And I want to tell you about Maddie. I've used this name, Maddie, because I did not want to reveal my client's name. And this is her story. Maddie, about Maddie, I'm going to talk to you about this one situation. And if you do resonate with it, or if you too experience something similar, then again, your word today is feel. That I feel, or maybe I feel you, or just I feel for that matter. So let me tell you about Maddie. Maddie was raised by absent parents. Her father traveled frequently and her mother was emotionally unavailable. She was left alone a lot even as a toddler. And when her sister was born, 2 years later, Maddie was put in charge of her. By age 5, Maddie was not only in charge of making meals for herself, but also her sister and their younger brother. She essentially raised herself. Today, Maddie is a very competent physician, but she gets painfully triggered when someone she cares about isn't available. When she calls her daughter at college and her daughter doesn't return the call, Maddie gets upset and sometimes even begins to blame her husband for her pain, even though it has nothing to do with him. Until Maddie began her work with me, she didn't realize that unavailability is her trigger and that she most often tries to avoid her pain by blaming her husband. But now that she is aware of the trauma from her childhood neglect, Maddie is learning to compassionately attend to her inner child in order to heal. Has this ever happened to any of you where you felt that it is somebody's fault, someone is not there because of which this is happening constantly? If this is you, please say yes. If it is you, if this has happened to you, believe you me, I feel you. And because you have realized this already, congratulations, friends, that you already have identified one of your triggers and not just one. In this chat box today, every single time when you typed a yes, every single time when you said, I feel, all these moments when you kept typing, these are some of the triggers that you already have started to identify. So if you haven't, started jotting down these emotions already, now is the time that you do so. And for which I'm going to give you some common emotional triggers. And any of it, you can use your pen and paper, write all these common emotional triggers that are there in front of you, and maybe identify which one over here is. Please do type this out because I want to open up this forum to allow some of you to come up and share some of your experiences only if you feel comfortable. If not, please use your chat box. Please just use there because I'm going to read out some of the common emotional triggers over here. Someone rejecting you, or maybe someone leaving you, or the threat that they will. Many times we are in relationships when often, we have this feeling that probably this person will leave us. I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about platonic ones as well, or even, any place, be it, in your personal space or in your professional space. It could be that we are in constant fear. We feel helpless or painful at times. Or maybe someone discounting or ignoring you. Someone just being so unavailable to you, just the way, we saw Maddie, that her parents were never available for her and she was the one who was doing everything on her own. Or maybe someone giving you a disapproving look. Just imagine you are at a meeting and you've put in your heart and soul and months of work into it, and this, like someone in the room just disapproves you, just looks at you in a very disapproving manner. What do you do then? Doesn't it start triggering some things, within you? So, or maybe someone just blaming or shaming you, someone being judgmental or critical of you, or someone being too busy to make time for you, someone not appearing to be happy to see you, or someone coming on to you sexually in a needy way. I am hoping that this hasn't happened to most of us over here. but it is a very common trigger, or someone trying to control you. We often are in such spaces where we felt that every move that we have, it's always controlled. Or maybe someone being needy or trying to smother you. I'm seeing so many of you are typing various, triggers that you all have experienced. Uh, I would really like to take this moment and ask some of you if you would like to unmute yourself and maybe share your experience if you wish to. Maybe one or two of you can come up and just share. Before you do, I'd actually like to share mine, and I'll talk about the very first, and which is someone rejecting me. Uh, this has been really hard and pretty difficult to trigger for me, being rejected. So yes, this has been my space where no, a zillion times maybe I have been rejected. I'll tell you, with those resume in my hand, going from office to office. Sometimes some people would say you're overly qualified, or probably we are going with another applicant. So I'm just talking about a very basic rejection here, but it did make me feel miserable, and I started self-loathing for sure, and I felt that I'm not good enough. So that really happened to me. Would you all like to actually share some of your experiences? Meredith, as a job hunter right now in these current situations, definitely we do feel that. Okay, I believe it's quite difficult to openly share this, but I would really encourage all of y'all, if y'all have identified any of your triggers in this list or something that's not inclusive in this, please do write it down, because today we have gathered here to identify our triggers. Please do.
How do you take a situation and really hone in on what the problem was? Like, you're not sure what the situation was. I remember being very young as a child, going to like being picked up for Sunday school. There was 5 of us kids, and I'm a twin, but I didn't want to be separated from my older siblings. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what happened or how we were all, probably by age, but I wanted to stay with one of my other siblings, and they wouldn't let me, and they forced me and held me, and I remember just crying the whole time. And then one of the men picked me up and held me the whole time. Well, I was shy, and I didn't know him, and I didn't want a strange man holding me. So out of that whole scenario, what is it? Was it fear? Was it abandonment? How do I put a name on that? But that stays strong in my head.
Okay, oh my God, that is soul rattling, is what I would say. Now that you're mentioning this, it just makes me feel that how difficult it must have been on you. So, Maureen, is it like, did you share, or I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry.
Pam.
Yeah, Pam, sorry. So tell me about this. So before labeling anything, labeling a particular emotion on this, I would really like to understand from you, when you were talking about this episode, what did you feel? Did you feel you were scared? Did you feel you were alone? Uh, did you feel helpless? Were you in pain? What is it that you felt? Because that is the question that we really need to answer in order to understand what is it that happened back then. Because when we are trying to identify a trigger, we need to go into this particular like form of this self-questioning in order to identify.
So I I would say helpless, fear, probably loneliness. Even though there were other kids there, I think I was feeling loneliness and abandonment from my other sibling or siblings.
Okay.
So it might have been because it was a new situation. They picked us up. My parents weren't there. I just didn't know people. But I mean, everything that you described or asked, is that how I was feeling? Basically, it was all of those.
Thank you so much for being vulnerable. That's the first thing that I would say, because it's not easy to come out and share one of our painful experiences in a group, even though when we know that this is a safe and non-judgmental space. But these emotions, they pull us down in such a way that it becomes very difficult for us to come out in the open and own it up. So kudos to you, congratulations, in owning this up. And yes, every emotion that you just shared, that you feel this is different, yes, those were the very emotions that you did feel, and all your feelings and emotions are valid. I would really encourage you to please note them down, because in this session, I want to help you try and combat them, so that whenever something of that sort happens, you don't get into, or go into another spiral of these triggers and end up reacting or acting in a way that you did not wish to. So that is what I would really want to do. And going ahead, uh, yes. So when you do note this down, because here I'm seeing so many of you type out so many of your experiences, your emotions. Now take a moment and try and identify what were you feeling, even at this point in time. Any of these difficult emotions that you were experiencing back in the day, or you had experienced back in the day, it may have resulted in either of the two that you get to see on your screen. You would either have an emotional reaction to it, or a physical reaction to it, for sure. So whenever any such episode happens, we get stuck in negative emotions such as anger, sadness, or anxiety, and react in extremely emotional ways, getting violent, yelling and screaming, and withdrawing completely. So these are just a few. It's definitely not an exhaustive list, but certainly some of the very common emotions that we experience in these situations. Now, why is it important for us to know that these could be the emotional reactions to that we need to identify? Because the moment we identify the emotions, like Pam, when you shared your experience and when you started identifying what is it that you felt, you already could validate it, and that registered in your head that, okay, this is what I was experiencing. So the first way to deal with any emotional trigger is to come to terms with it, to acknowledge it, to admit that, yes, this is how I feel. Maximum number of times we do not even know what we felt. We keep talking about an episode, an incident, and we don't talk about how we are feeling. And if we do not know how we feel, we can't really do anything about it. So tell me, in any such episode, like whenever, because till the time there is life, these things would continue to happen. So if it has happened to you, did you also feel that, you started like, I've just listed down a few physical reactions here, that you start to crave certain, substances like food, sugar, alcohol, drugs, etc. Because any such difficult episode in our lives, and if we are unable to deal with it, if we do not come to terms with our own feelings, if we do not tell ourselves that, yes, this is how I feel, we would have a physical reaction to it. And this happens because the emotional pain triggers our habitual way of indulging, um, in some kind of physical activity that we are using to suppress the emotion or dull the pain. So I have a question here. So, okay, would each, okay, no, not question, sorry. Yes, like would it eat sugar or used to get violent for a physical reaction, right? So at this moment, because I'm hoping that you all are with your pen and paper and you all are thinking about those episodes in your life which you are unable to forget. Probably you are still getting nightmares, or when the moment you just hear the word emotion, you get triggered and you start thinking about that episode. Then write that down. Write that episode down in details as graphically as possible. Then start listing down, what is it that you were feeling? Not necessarily a emotion, it could be more. That is the reason in the poll which I was mentioning at the start of the session, I really want you to pay attention to that poll and try and answer and tell yourself how many emotion words do you know? Because the first step of identifying and then combating these triggers so that we can control our brain rather than our brain controlling us is to identify how we are feeling. So write them down and then start writing down the physical reactions that you've had over the years for it. Were you yelling at people, or would you engage in consuming substances that you would rather not? So write them down. So there are many reasons behind, why we feel emotionally triggered. It could be some opposing beliefs and values that we have. At the very start of the session, one of you did mention about this. So when we are strongly identified with a certain belief, we may find it hard to be tolerant of other opposing beliefs. So it could be some trauma as well. Back in the day, like I said, that it could be not just in childhood. Maybe when we sit with a soldier, or even at times, it breaks my heart to even say this, it could be a rape victim as well. Something, if say for example, I had a client who was raped, a victim, and whenever she would see a bearded man, she would often feel scared and threatened because uh, again, her criminal, this person was a bearded man. So this is how we get triggered. So that trauma, it just sets us in that loop. And the very important bit over here is our ego, the sense of self that we carry around us all the time. When it hurts us, when something pricks us, that's when we feel that, no, 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 this is not right. And without us even taking a moment to breathe, to tell ourselves that, okay, this is what I'm feeling, this is what is happening around me, we just tend to react. If you are someone who has done that without even taking a moment to focus on your breath, please type I reacted. All right, just type reacted. So I am reading one of the messages that I have over here. I was frightened of my mother. She had brown hair, so as a young teenager, I would avoid brown-haired girls until I realized that. So see, start writing these little things down, just one bit, and make them, just note them down. You have to note it down in order for you to deal with it. So about ego that I was talking about, that whenever we feel, because ego is something that we take as, a sense of self is something that we take as a self-protection mechanism. And if someone challenges that, we tend to react. So have you, like you all are writing over here, reacted? Yes, we all have. Now, how do you? That is a question that is my favorite. That how do I even identify that I am getting emotionally triggered in the situation? All of it that we discussed so far is, of course, talking about past incidents and memories, or maybe some unhappy ones. So these were what we were trying to identify in the past, because we want to heal from those as well. But now let's get armored and try to ensure that now in future as well, or in the times to come, we get to identify our triggers as well. So here's a list over here that might be of help for all of you all. Maybe when the moment we start getting emotionally triggered, our bodies start to give us some signs. Probably we start to tremble, we feel dizzy at times, or maybe we start sweating, Any emotion which is extremely strong, it will have physical signs. So I would encourage you, like, yes, I get to see racing heart, shaking solar plexus, jaw trembles, heart rate rises. Thank you for sharing all of that. Go on and type, just type. So yes, we need to focus on, pay attention to our bodily reactions. That is the first step. And how do we know, pay attention to our bodily reaction? This is my trick of doing so. Breathe. Bring your focus back to your breath, and you will be able to pay attention to your bodily reactions. Trust me, and you will be able to. You'll thank me later, I'm sure, for this. And that will help you notice your thoughts that are firing through your head. And that will, if you can do that, if you've arrived at the second step, the third step is not far. You can immediately ask yourself, who or what triggered the emotion? Yes, you are in that situation. Yes, that person whom you're talking to probably has said something, done something, or has reminded you of something that you couldn't deal with earlier, and it's just coming in front of you again. But the moment you ask yourself this question, you would be able to identify what are you feeling, and then you can answer this question, that what happened before you were triggered. So what happened before you were triggered? I'll take you back to that hypothetical situation that I had given you, wherein I mentioned how, you were in a friendly conversation and suddenly this happened. So when we get triggered, if we follow these steps, we would be able to, go back to a point wherein we were calm. So it automatically starts to, bring us back into the moment, into the present situation. So that really, helps us combat, not just identify, but start combating our emotional triggers, so that we are in complete charge of the way we are feeling, the way we are thinking. Because I say that we feel the way we think. So just try and control your brain rather than our brain controlling us. And yes, a very important question, which I would really want all of y'all to answer today, that what needs of yours were not being met? That is something that we need to answer. Okay, now this is an activity. Before I go into this activity, which is there in front of your screen, I really want you all to use the chat box to tell me, just ask yourself, what are some of my needs that are not being met? It could be materialistic, it could be emotional, it could be something, it could be anything, in fact, not just something, it could be anything, because anything can be a trigger. Just say what your needs, what are those needs that are not being met. Type it. I really want to do this with all of you all, so go ahead and type. I read acceptance, inclusion. So these are the needs, some of the needs, that emotional support. Okay, great. Go ahead, type. Let me know. Being heard, okay. Acknowledgement, knowing I have been heard. Self-validation, not being respected, okay. Right partner, okay, not being able to find the right partner, okay. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. So now these, you already know now what are those needs that haven't been met. Today we are just, touching up this topic because after the session is when the real work begins. This session is purely conversational, purely a trigger in its own, for you to think after, not, entirely, not 100% in here. So look at the screen. You have 3 columns that, over here in front of you. Use your pen and paper and jot this down. The first column is definitely the trigger. That is where you need to write down everything that, you experienced and you felt that, okay, this triggered me. It's very important to first identify and then talk about the current situation, like in the 5 steps that I mentioned in the previous slide, how to go about it. It will help you bring you back into the current situation. And an amazing and awesome way of dealing with this, or rather combating our triggers, would be to come up with new reaction. Now I'm again, like very quickly throwing certain things at you. You all have typed certain, needs that were not being met. Someone said not being respected, not finding the right partner, not being heard, not, not doesn't matter. So many things, that y'all have just typed. Someone has just said, I don't understand this perspective, and like my perspective, all of these, these different things that you have over here. These are your triggers for sure, because these are the needs that were not met, and that, resulted in some triggers, because it made you feel emotions that you would rather not. And, it made you react in a way you'd rather not. So here are some examples that might help you. So in the first column, like you read that when I feel that my spouse dismisses my comments or feelings about something, if this has happened to you, if you have a partner, and if this has happened to you, just type yes. Just type yes in the comment, in the chat box, and let me know. Okay. Now, if your reaction has been what you're getting to read on the screen, that you got angry and yelled at him or her, please type another yes. Okay. So many yeses. Okay, some no's. Okay, I'm glad. Okay, I've done it. Okay, sometimes. Okay. So yeah, we all have been there and we've done that. So if we really want to learn how to combat our triggers, we really need to do this exercise. And I would want you all to actually send this to me if possible, because after this session, I would be sending you a feedback form, wherein I would really want you all to talk about these things. And in that mail, you can share this particular worksheet with me, that what would be a new reaction to it, that I'll tell him my feelings were hurt. Have you ever done this? Have you ever communicated with your spouse that your feelings were hurt? If yes, please type yes. That is so good to read. That is so good to read. Okay, someone says no. Okay. Okay. Many yeses. Now the thing is, if we want this to be the way we wish to react all the time, then we really need to follow these steps. I have some more examples over here which you can definitely read. But given, the other bits that I really want to share with you all, and I really want to open the floors for a great one-on-one conversation, I'm going to move on to our next slide. Going to talk to you about how to heal from trigger inflicted pain. So in today's conversational session that we had, we were talking about our past emotions, how difficult it was for us, and how can we heal, or maybe we also talked about if in a current situation, how do I identify and combat these triggers. So here's something for you. This is more of a reminder to each one of us that once we know our triggers, the first step to healing is considering their origins. Ask yourself which of your triggers might relate to your childhood experiences. Because, like I said at the start of the session, most of us tend to feel and behave in a way that we wish not to, is because it is stemming from our childhood. So ask yourself, pinpoint, find it out, that which one of these has its origins in childhood, because only you can heal your triggers. So take a little time to go inside and make sure to be patient, kind, and compassionate. If you wish to receive a worksheet that I have created to identify the way we feel and the way we can combat our triggers, please let me know. Please type a quick yes in the chat box so that after the session I get to share that worksheet with you, please, because I'd love to. Now think about this, when we, thank you. Yes, I am going to share these worksheets with you all along with the feedback form that is coming your way. Please do make good use of it. So, when we talk about these, there are various ways in which we can heal. One of the ways I'd like to talk about is our lean in community here today. When I was going through depression, that is something that I'd really like to share with you all by the time before ending the session today. uh, I was really in a very dark space. I was suffering from depression. It was a relapse. And I had nothing to look up to, no hope, no ray of light. I wanted to join a circle, couldn't find one. And on the website, I read that if you can't find a circle, start your own. That was a moment of my self-realization, there's a kind of a realization that, okay, I am my own survivor. And that, yes, I can heal. And that is what here I'm talking to all of you all today, that we all have the power within us, that ability within us to be a phoenix, to rise from our own ashes. And we can heal our own selves. And lean in, being that community, being in community spaces like lean in, building relationships and social networks that provide support, is one of the many ways in which you can heal. Sometimes finding purpose in our lives, engaging in meaningful daily activities, be it a job or maybe a volunteering effort or initiative that you're taking, or just being creative, that might help you heal. Find your own strategies, because psychology is the only science without a definition, and we are experimentalists, and we keep on strategizing, finding our own ways. So today I'm just sharing these 4 ways in which you can begin healing. Could be focusing on your making informed healthy choices. That could be one of the ways in which you can heal from these triggers. Or maybe creating that heaven for yourself, where you know that, yes, this is a stable and safe space to live. One of those ways. And before I wind up, a very quick reminder to all of you today over here, that thinking honestly about your triggers is the only way to eventually heal them. On that note, I thank each one of you all for joining me today on a journey where I got to talk about my emotions, my own emotional triggers, my journey, how I overcame it, how I tried to become emotionally intelligent and continuing to be so. Thank you so much for allowing me this time to talk about a very important but quite ignored topic, which is emotions. And I expect each one of y'all to take few moments of your day to just feel. If you could, I would request each one of y'all to please just say, I feel. Type in and just say, I feel. Because you know what? We feel the way we think, and I want you all to think that you feel. That is one of the ways in which we would like to, talk about the importance of emotions as well. Because yes, let's get emotionally intelligent. I also, would want to apologize for the technical glitches which interrupted our session. And yeah, over to you, Shanu. Yeah, that is me.
Thank you so much, Ruchi. Thank you so much. This was such an insightful session. And now I would request our audience, if they have anything which they think has been left unanswered, they can ask it right here, right now. Also, I think they can reach out to you, right, Ruchi, after the event as well.
Yes. So yes, please. I would love all of y'all to please turn on your videos, unmute yourself, share your experiences, tell me what is it that you would like to ask. Because let's just talk. Today's session was more conversational, like I said, and the real work begins after. So let's just talk. Please tell me if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Tonya or Tonya? How do you pronounce it? Because I'm loving it that you're in a car and you have tuned in. So that is super cool. That is so amazing.
Yep, I'm Tanya.
Tonya, okay. Thank you for tuning in even when you are driving. So amazing.
I couldn't get
So
home
yeah,
fast.
if you all have any questions, any queries, please ask me. If you'd like to share something, the floor is yours. Go ahead, girls. Just lean in.
Hey Ruchi, so this is Swati here. So I have a question which I think can be put to very general scenarios in which you get triggers. I feel so like I know that we do say that everything is controlled by us and how we feel, and it's up to us to uh, control our mind rather than the opposite way. But sometimes you have to deal with the same people, or you can't stop that kind of interaction with someone, and somewhere someone's input or someone's repetitive behavior, even after you are putting in efforts, can kind of hinder your own growth. So any inputs on that, like how to not be affected or how to deal with situations like that where you can't change the person in front of you but you want to change?
Okay, that is something that we all deal with, isn't it? Like if you
Yeah.
all have dealt with this, I'm sure you all are typing a yes in your chat box already. Thank you, Swati, for raising this. And let me put it very simply. Yes, you are right. You're right that many a times when we try to control ourselves, when we are trying to combat our own emotional triggers, but we still keep on getting triggered. To that, let me tell you that we need to draw boundaries. We need to learn how to draw personal boundaries, because if we can do that, nothing will be able to come and prick us.
Uh-huh.
That is something we need to learn, how to draw personal boundaries.
Hi Ruchi, may I speak?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So we are right now speaking about the triggers, but then I feel that uncertainty is one of the triggers which is very continuous. For example, right now my mother is ill; she's everything to me, and then I I am constantly falling ill, or maybe I'm feeling so much worried that what will I do if she leaves me alone in this world. So uncertainty is one thing, one triggering thing that's very continuous, constant. So how do we deal with this thing? Because I am also a doctoral researcher last year. Now I had plans for my postdoctorate, going abroad, etc. I was thinking that I'll take my mother along with me when I go abroad, etc. But then this kind of a situation is very difficult. All our when we are kind of ready, all set to take to fly, and your mother is the person who is responsible for your success, and then suddenly you feel this, that your mother is ill and we don't know what next. So how do we deal with this kind of
My God, this just, my heart goes out to you. My prayers for your mother's, quick recovery. But yes, in this situation, when you correctly mentioned that when we are uncertain about what would happen, that is the time that it's quite hard. When what I'm going to tell you, it might not be easy upon you, but it is just coming in as a suggestion, that acknowledging the fact that yes, this is what's happening, that yes, my mother is ill, and yes, I'm not certain about how this is going to end, or maybe what's going to happen. Just acknowledging the first part is going to help you accept the reality. If we tend to constantly, what do you call that, juggle between, or maybe oscillate between, no, it's not true, yes, it is true. If we continuously do that, then we'll inflict more pain on ourselves. So the first is definitely telling ourselves that yes, this can happen. If we can do that, maybe the few moments when we are a lot more stable and in control of ourselves, we would be able to utilize it to create happy spaces. And that might also help your mother heal, and that will help you heal as well. I hope that helps. Is there anyone else who would like to ask me anything? Y'all can please go ahead and ask. Thank you, Meredith, for saying that.
I would like to speak.
Yes, please.
My name is Meredith, who just commented. Hi, everybody. So one of my questions is kind of like, how do you feel about medication? I currently go to a therapist, and it helps me so much. So I definitely recommend it if you guys feel like you don't really have somebody to talk to. Especially because, like, I have a lot of people in my life. I have a full family that's nearby. I have my boyfriend who I live with and all that stuff. But I think talking to an outside source is super, super helpful. I just wanted to, hear your thoughts on medication and therapy. Just curious.
Okay, thank you for bringing that, up, because that is something that is so natural to me. I was not expecting this question in this session. So thank you, great. And I am so proud of you that you chose to be vulnerable to share it with us, that you are seeking help. Double thumbs up to that. Trust me, Meredith, I am a therapist and I have a therapist. So, that's completely fine and normal. And I would definitely like to share this with you all, that yes, we may be those privileged ones who have families and boyfriends and girlfriends or partners, or, a big social circle and communities. But still, all these people, the inner circle that we have, they help us vent our thoughts and feelings and emotions. That's a vent. But if we really need to learn how to heal, or if we wish to heal and we are unable to, even after venting it out, then we really need to seek professional help, because that's where you get the treatment. And yes, about medication, I do not say a no to medication. I do not, have the authority to prescribe medication, but yes, someone who does. And if a psychiatrist feels that you need one, do not hesitate to take it, because if we don't hesitate to take a pill if we have fever, why hesitate to take a pill if we are feeling depressed? So that's my take. And yes, like I said, that I am a depression survivor turned psychologist. So, and I still have my therapist. It doesn't mean that I don't have to seek therapy now that I'm a therapist. So no size, like one size fits all, or maybe no magic potions here. It's an ongoing process. It's like breathing. It's like bathing. It's like eating. Do it every day. That's your survival gig, right? Yes. I hope, I've been able to connect with all of y'all. If there are more questions, I'm sure Shanu has dropped in my links with y'all. Y'all can definitely get in touch with me. And I would love to answer all your questions. So Shanu, do we have more time to take in any more questions, or would you like to wrap it up?
I think we are 30 minutes over time. So this has been a wonderful, wonderful session. And of course, during this time when COVID is hitting us this hard and everybody is locked down at their place alone and barely few people to speak to, this was a great session. Thank you so much, Ruchi. And I would request all of you, who, if you have any questions which you want to ask, or if you want to reach out to anybody, please feel free to reach out to us or Ruchi. Ruchi can be reached out at her website, which is EduPsych. The link I have pasted in the comments. Also, you can reach out to us on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you feel comfortable. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. And thank you so much, Ruchi. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Just wondering
me.
when the next session will be.
Sorry?
When the next I guess webinar will be, like, is there a part 2 to this, or another webinar that you'll be doing?
Okay, Shanu, you are the one who is to answer this.
We would love to host a webinar if if Ruchi is there with us. And of course, if at all, if you want to ask anything, you can reach out to us or Ruchi. And surely we will keep you guys posted about the next webinar.